Pleasant morning, ladies and gentlemen, or good afternoon from wherever you're joining, or good evening. It is a pleasure to welcome you to part two in a series of online forums being organized by the Tourism Linkages Network, which is a division of the Tourism Enhancement Fund, an agency of the Ministry of Tourism. I'm your moderator and host, Professor Andrew Spencer. I'm a professor of tourism development from the University of the West Indies. But probably more importantly, I had the responsibility of being CEO for Jamaica's Tourism Product Development Agency, the TPDCO, for almost 4 years, quite recently. And so I'm very excited to be engaging in a discussion today about the diversification of Jamaica's tourism product. Of course, this issue of diversification is something that generates a lot of discussion. There's a question of how much should you diversify and whether you become all things to all people and therefore you become known for nothing. I mean, how little should you diversify and then become an unwanted destination? So today we are engaging in that discussion. But first of all, I need to let you know that the Tourism Linkages Network is a very key part of the industry's development agenda. The network continues to play a key role in creating collaborative relationships that build capacity and sustainability, which are drivers of socioeconomic advancement. The linkage network, that's the Tourism Linkages Network, impacts stakeholders across a number of industries, including agriculture, manufacturing, gastronomy or culinary, sport and entertainment, shopping, health and wellness, and knowledge. So a very vast coverage. And this has been happening since 2016. The network has executed a number of programs and projects which have included giving local suppliers access to the tourism supply chain, as well as to contribute to the diversification of our tourism product offerings using some passion points, which have been identified as gastronomy, health and wellness, knowledge, shopping, sport, and entertainment. And each of these has its own network. So the knowledge network, in keeping with its objective to foster the growth of tourism knowledge and the tourism knowledge economy, has engaged in a development of strong intellectual and practical partnerships and linkages from which knowledge can be leveraged and supplied. Last month, the discussion focused on how tourism has impacted other sectors, with specific focus on agriculture and manufacturing. This month, our focus, ladies and gentlemen, turns to the diversification of Jamaica's tourism product. And to discuss all of this, we have a very exciting panel, very diverse panel, in fact, probably representative of how diverse we want our tourism product to be. We have with us today the Director of Tourism for the JTB, Mr. Donovan White. We have Nazma Chin, Jamaica Food and Drink Festival, to discuss with us culinary tourism. We have Tommy Cohen from Glory Music to discuss faith-based tourism. Carrie Ann Clark is here with us from Collection Moda to discuss shopping tourism. We have Jampa represented by Carol Straw, who will be discussing medical tourism and, of course, wellness tourism. And then we have Joel Smith from Hub Co-working, who will be talking to us about the exciting area of digital nomads. So I'm very excited, and I think we need to get right into the excitement of what we're going to do. Our first presenter today is Mr. Tommy Cohen. And let me tell you a little bit about Tommy before we go into an exciting video. He was born in April 1946. I can't believe this. When you look at Tommy, you would never think so. He was born in Newmarket, St. Elizabeth. He moved to Kingston at 8 years old and lived with his aunt on Delacree Road. As a young man, Tommy joined a singing group called the Merrick-Holes, which later became the Jamaicans who wrote and sang hits such as Baba Boom, the 1967 festival song winner, Thing You Say You Love, and Peace and Love, among many others. In 1974, Tommy branched out and with the full support of Byron Lee began releasing music under his own Star Apple label and set up his company, Talent Corporation, the following year. Talent Corporation has distributed Bunny Wailer and Peter Tosh's first solo albums and Bob Marley's Natty Dread single. Tommy became more and more involved with Bob Marley and the Wailers and toured Europe and Africa with them, serving as the compere for the now legendary Zimbabwe independence concert at Salisbury. After many years of practicing Rastafarianism, Tommy returned to the Christian faith and developed Glory Music, Jamaica's leading gospel music production house and agency. Through Glory Music, Tommy and his wife, Carleen Davis, produced the largest gospel event in the Caribbean, Fun in the Sun. Fun in the Sun has also been staged in Haiti and New York. Let us go to an exciting video on Fun in the Sun.
I just knew the commercial, One Love, you know, and it looked real nice and pretty and all that. And I wanted to come, but then when I found this information about the Gospel Spring Festival, it just made me want to come even more. What really interests me the most was the opportunity to actually do the word and worship, the street evangelism, attending a Jamaican church. That's really what sealed me on coming at this time.
In the States, nothing like this. Nothing compares to the reggae, the message of God, the body of Christ coming together. There's nothing like this. It's unbelievable.
Tommy, I think your mic is muted.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Professor Spencer, for that introduction. I think it covered quite a bit there of just in that short 15 seconds, what was it, 30 seconds introduction of where God has taken me from and where he has brought me to. And thank you for the invitation for being here with you all today. In my real space here, however, I would just like to take 30 seconds and we just give the Lord thanks for this forum. We thank the Lord for this here coming together in this space where we can lift up our country, Jamaica, where we can look for the betterment of our people. Lord, we ask that during this meeting and this forum that wisdom be used and understanding will go forth. We thank you for everyone that's gathered here and will share with us because, Lord, we know that it is for a better Jamaica. You say that in your word, that you will prosper us and keep us in good health. And we thank you for that now. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen and amen. Yes, so, it was in March 2002 in Ocherius that we staged the first Fun in the Sun festival. It was actually 3 weekends in that township. I mean, it was an amazing task and responsibility that we took on. But that came out of my experience in 2002 and 2001. We were looking at what was happening in spring break and found that there was actually a void for what I thought at the time was called religious tourism, or an offering to the people who were from the faith base in the United States and other places of the world, that we would have had something to offer them. And we started out by having something called Gospel at Sunset. And then my son, and I must give him credit for this, Pastor Chekowan, came up with the idea that, okay, and I said to him, we need to have this thing. And he went off to the North Coast and came back with the name Fun in the Sun, the S-O-N, who made the S-U-N. And that was it. So realizing that this kind of a tourism motivates people from all over the world. And when we look at it, realizing that faith-based tourism or religious tourism, some people like to call it that way, depending on who you're speaking with. Eh? So it motivated people in different areas of the world, and this has been one of the oldest forms of tourism. As a matter of fact, the Muslims were going to Mecca now since 632, and even Jesus went to Jerusalem for the Passover as a child. And so we see religious tourism was there for a long time. The potential of tourism that we saw in the birth of Jesus, that when he got to that town, the Bible says that there was no room in the inn. In other words, the hotel rooms were sold out. And this is because of what the impact of tourism, religious tourism or faith-based tourism. So we looked at it and we said, okay, the significance of it is one, because with faith-based tourism and you're bringing in people, you know, it also has an impact with people living together, coming together without prejudice and all of that. And we thought, okay, this will not only help the Christians coming in, but it will also be something for our country. Amen? So, and when we look at our music also, is that you find that our music, reggae, is grounded in spiritual understandings, a lot of it. You know, if you look at all the songs from the Delroy Wilsons coming up through history. As a matter of fact, someone said to me once that the greatest writer in reggae has got to be King David, because there was so much of our music that came from the words of the Psalms and so forth, you know, and how spirituality was a big part of our presentation of our music. Now, like I said, you know, it also is a way that can bridge barriers in color, creed, or religion. And we also found that people, when we check it out, that people wanted to experience a Jamaican type of a worship. And so we decided to go with Fun in the Sun, tapping into that. When we check it, that religious market in the United States, as a matter of fact, the religious tourism market, and not straying from our beliefs and what we do feel about our religion and about our spirituality, that it's not all about money, it's about people's lives also. But it is valued billions and billions of dollars. As a matter of fact, the USA, and I've been to many of the places in the USA to see conventions and the awards ceremony and all that sort of things that they have in New Orleans and in Texas and New York and so forth. But there are over 450,000, I'm not sure what the up-to-date numbers are now, of churches in the United States. 50,000 of these churches run and organize travel programs. In other words, they have mission trips. They have, you'll see the TD Jakes cruises, Creflo Dollar Cruise, the convention and the anniversary trips. And of course, there are so many mission trips that comes to Jamaica each year, and what's been done all over the Caribbean. So in 2002, we started our first Fun in the Sun 3 weekends in the town of Ocho Rios. And it was transformed into a hotbed of Christian entertainment and ministry. Now we are at the 19th year and we comes into this pandemic, but it's our intent to continue on that path with the original intent of a program to bring more of the Christian market in Jamaica. And so one of the exciting thing is that it is not just a show, but it's an experience beyond the event. What we found out is that as we went along, you know, we started out in 2000 with 2,000 persons in 2002. Then it grew to 8,000 persons in 2007. 15,000 persons came out in 2008, which actually surprised us because that year we were planning to have probably 10,000 persons. And just to let you know that that experience which we had in Hope Gardens was something else, because I just want to be real and give you an idea of the atmosphere is that the police actually came in and said, oh, this crowd is just too big. But we had to ask them to allow us to pray over it. And I remember Robert Levy from Jamaica Brawlers went on stage and Robert prayed and we had peace, nothing, we had no incident. So far, we have not had any incidents at these events. And that says a lot for us and for the goodness of God. But up to now though, when 2016 came in, we had over 80,000 persons coming to Fun in the Sun. So we find that it is an event that is pulling people. We had to come in 2008. We decided to come from the North Coast into Kingston to do Fun in the Sun. This was recommended as we realized that the truth is that some of the sponsors were more interested in the fact that we had more people coming and more people were involved. But also what had happened from the Christian market point of view is that parents who sent their children down to Jamaica, a lot of them were interested in not just them having a good time, but of them, let's say, getting their hands dirty, of them making a contribution. In other words, they saw the show as the icing on the cake, let's say, as they would come in and they would want to do mission work, like they would want to help build an old person's home, help to build a children's home, help to speak to children about drug addiction and all that sort of a thing. And so we brought it into Kingston and we have had this massive turnout. Of course, we could not have done this without the help of the churches. We've had the churches involved, the churches of Jamaica, and they've helped us to supply and to have what we call, we have trained, it's not just a show, but we have trained over 8,000 persons up until that time in peer evangelism. Now we have had over 10,000 young people be trained in peer evangelism, which means in peer evangelism is that the youngsters of the same age speak with each other. They understand the language. They are able to speak, and sometimes it's better, and most times it's better. And they are also able to invite them to have fellowship with them. You know, so somebody might say, well, okay, you know, you're living, somebody got saved at Fun in the Sun. As a matter of fact, during that time, we have had over 20,000 persons committed their lives to Christ. But so someone would say, listen, you're living in Papine like myself. Can you join me at a young people's meeting and so forth? So there is a coming together. And so the churches of Jamaica were involved in that. We expect in the future to use these persons to multiply and impact the nation and build a reputation, which will cause persons to want to come to Jamaica all through the years. Yeah. Just to mention, what you said in my introduction, is that we have also done Fun in the Sun in the Bronx now for 8 years, and we have done it in Haiti. One of the interesting things is that I was the MC of Bob Marley, and I've seen the impact of our music. I was the MC of Reggae Sunsplash. I've done over 500 shows worldwide. I've done shows in Japan, in Australia, Saipan, Guam, Africa, Europe, name the European countries. And we find that our music has this impact on people's lives. So we believe when we go out there and we do something like in the Bronx, it makes more people want to come to Jamaica. They get just like a touch of it there. They get a taste of it. And the hunger is there, wanting to come to Jamaica to participate with us, worship with us, see how we do our music. I want to just quote you something from the Message Bible. And this happens in Amos 9 and in verse 13, 15. And it says, and you can check it for yourself, it says, yes, indeed, it won't be long now. God's decree. Things are going to happen so fast, your head will spin. One thing fast on the heels of the other. You won't be able to keep up. Everything will be happening at once and everywhere you look. Blessings, blessings like wine, pouring off the mountains and hills. I'll make everything right again for my people. They'll rebuild their ruined cities. They'll plant vineyards and drink good wine. They'll work their gardens and eat fresh vegetables. And I'll plant them on their own land. They'll never again be uprooted from the land I've given them. God, your God, says so. And we believe that there's going to be that turn in Jamaica. I want to say that during this period of time, we have attracted the likes of Hezekiah Walker, Kirk Franklin, Donna McCurkin, Ty Tribbett, Mary Toby, Mark Nicole C. Mullen, and we have had Carleen Davis, Papa San, Kevin Downswell, Junior Tucker, Jermaine Edwards, amongst others. We have even had artists who wants to come in from Africa. And we have had Crystalists from Africa who have been here. We have had people from England who have been here. We have had interest from the Caribbean, And so we intend to reach out to more schools, more folks in America. Like I said, I don't think we have started to. We have made an interest in that market, but we intend to impact, because that $10 billion market in America, we can have a part of that. And I think it will help to uplift our country. I think over a period of time, I was worried that Jamaica, to be frank, was becoming known as a country where we might be having crime, drugs and disharmony. But I believe that the Lord will turn it around and will be known as a place of peace and harmony, a place that you can come to and just be in one. We have seen the different sections of our gospel industry, including people, lawyers who are from the spiritual and religious areas. We have seen the churches. We have seen school children from the school breaks in spring break come to Jamaica for Fun in the Sun. And we want to just encourage you and to encourage ourselves to continue on this role of building Fun in the Sun, making Fun in the Sun be a calendar event for people all over the world. We believe it, and like Miles Monroe, he was one of the first speakers who came to Fun in the Sun, the late Dr. Miles Monroe, who says, eyes that look are common, but eyes that see are rare. And we need to see, because we believe vision is the most powerful tool that a man has. Thank you so much for allowing me, sir.
Yes.
And yes.
Thank you so much, Tommy. I mean, your energy is electric. And I think the hope that you have for faith-based tourism is something that radiates and connects with all of us. And it's something that we all should buy into. In fact, out of all the things you said, one of my biggest takeaways was the idea that you're talking about an experience beyond the event. And that's certainly how we ought to consider every facet of tourism. What is the experiential side that we can capture for everyone? So thank you very much, Tommy. And we're gonna keep it moving. I want to remind all of our presenters to keep checking your private chat as well on Zoom for some signals and so on. But I think we can't talk about music and faith-based tourism without engaging in a discussion about food and drink. And no better person to talk to us about food and drink and gastronomy or culinary tourism than Nazma Chin, who is with us today. We're excited to have Nazma. And Nazma is the person who is responsible for the Food and Drink Festival. In fact, Nazma has over 15 years experience in marketing and communications. She enjoys creating disruptive strategic plans and working on innovative projects, from brand development to global conferences. She's passionate about delivering beyond what is asked with finesse. She has played an integral role in growing Jamaica's Food and Drink Festival from its inception 7 years ago, and looks forward to putting JFDF on the top 10 culinary festivals in the world list in the near future. Over to Nazma.
Thank you very much, Prof. And I just want to say that coming off of this amazing energy from Tommy, that you're speaking my language, because you said there's a hunger to come to Jamaica. So that's right up our alley. It's a pleasure being here. And I want to firstly thank the team at TEF for inviting JFDF to the table. Culinary tourism is a massive industry, and we all have to play an important role. Everyone here, on this seminar can help grow culinary tourism, because when we all win, that's the best way to win. If we win in individual pockets, the country doesn't grow and go into the direction that we would all like it to be in, which is a positive one, according to Tommy earlier. So what is Jamaica Food and Drink Company? I'm just going to give you a little quick history, because I think it's really important for you to hear our story. In 2014, Matthew Lynn from CB Foods went to South Beach Food and Wine Festival. And most of you would know that it is an iconic food and wine festival. People from all over the world go. I think it's probably almost 50, 60,000 persons they attract. And he came back to Jamaica and he asked a question to a small group of us: why can't we do that? Why can't we do that in Jamaica? And I think it's the burning question everyone on this seminar has asked themselves when they decided to grow their businesses. So we agreed. We said, sure, let's do it. And there's a recipe for the success we've had. And we do have a long way to go, but I think it's really important for us to look at what makes culinary tourism work. And the first thing is that you have to identify a need. What is the need in the market? And you have to find a target market, a very defined target market globally. And I think two of the really big things, and this is something that we have to be very intentional about what we do, is we have to have a great strategy. And a lot of that is not a 2-year plan or a 3-year plan. It's a 10-year plan. I'm sure everyone on this call, we are consumed with what we're doing this year, but we're thinking about next year and the year after and what we're going to do, who we're booking probably, which chef, which artist, which fashion designer for 4 years down the line, because you have to plan ahead and it's really important. Coming off of that, we came up with this great plan. 1 year later, in 2015, we started, and we had 7 events with about 5,000 persons. 4 years after that, in 2019, we had 15 events with over 15,000 persons, from Hope Gardens to downtown Kingston on the waterfront, Strawberry Hill. We really wanted to host events in iconic spaces in Kingston. And we had over 40 local chefs. We brought in throughout those 2 years, 2018 and 2019, about 15 international chefs, 20 international food bloggers, one of them who won an award for covering twice, actually, Food and Drink Festival. And so we knew we were onto something great. And it says something because the local market was our biggest supporter in the beginning. Because before we were able to attract persons to come in, you have to have a local market to support you, to get you off the ground. And we are very grateful that the Jamaican market here at home was so supportive. Fast forward to 2020, when, good old COVID walked through the door. And we sat and we had to decide what did we want to do. And what we wanted to do was ensure that we stayed on track. And what you see on my screen here speaks to where we decided our brand needed to go, who we are. We're curators of memorable food experiences. And we want to position Kingston as Jamaica's coolest food destination. So in a nutshell, that's who we are, Jamaica Food and Drink Company. What is culinary tourism? As you guys can see, I am sitting in my kitchen, and that's where it all begins, right? Culinary tourism, or food tourism, or gastronomy tourism. I mean, there are quite a few different words that persons play around with, but essentially it's the exploration of food as the purpose of tourism. It is now considered a vital component of the tourism experience. Dining out is common among tourists, and food is believed to rank alongside, and this is really, really important, especially for Jamaica, climate, accommodation, and scenery. So we are so much more than sun, sea, and sand. That certainly is the foundation of our tourism product, but we are essentially a lot more. And why are we more? And why is it important for us to put culinary tourism on the radar? Well, here's why. $1,116 billion was spent in the culinary tourism industry in 2019 by tourism travelers, right? In 2027, they're looking at 1,796 billion. What's even more important is 1/3 of the spend of travelers go towards food experiences. So let's do some quick math, right? We have 4.3 million tourists annually coming to Jamaica. That spend is about 3.64 billion US. So what does that mean if we say 1/3 of the spend goes to culinary tourism in Jamaica? If we were to map it out, that's 1.2 billion US. I don't know about you guys, but I think we certainly want to have a piece of that pie, right? And what's also really important is who's the target market we're reaching out to? Guys, 27% of the world's population are millennials. And those are the persons who actually travel a lot for food and spend a lot for food. And those are the persons around 25 to 40 years. A few years ago, I was a millennial, but I can certainly say even now, I travel for food. It's the first thing that I look for. Where are the closest restaurants? Are there any food trucks around? What's the food scene? And so for us, the why in culinary tourism is pretty much on your screen here. It is an economic driver. It creates employment. There is a huge need, and persons want to participate and benefit. And we have a thriving gastronomy scene. We have chefs that are world-class. We have products that are made in Jamaica that are world-class. So we want to be the world's coolest food destination. This is our 10-year goal, or big 10-year plan. And why? Because, Jamaica straight up is a very cool country, but what we want to own as a space rolling off of everyone's tongue in another 5 years, when you think of Jamaica, you also think of it as the world's coolest food destination. Something that's really important to us, and I know very important to TEF as well, is how can we link back what's happening in culinary tourism to the economy in Jamaica? And the truth is, they're all very interconnected, because you grow culinary tourism, you can see an increase in agriculture, manufacturing, restaurant seats, hotels, entertainment, because yes, persons travel for food, but they also travel to connect. They want an experience. And I think it's really important now for us to probably stop and pause for a second and really applaud, and I want to say that on behalf of Jamaica Food and Drink Company, all the culinary professionals in Jamaica. The last 2 years have been rough. It's been very, very rough. And we know there are persons out there who were doing amazing things. And of course, it's been a bit of a spoke in the wheel, but we do believe, and we strongly believe, that culinary tourism is the way to go. And we support everyone in culinary tourism 100%. So, I mean, at the end of the day, for me, it's important to celebrate our wins as well in Jamaica. We are doing well in culinary tourism. There's always, ways that we can improve, but what are we doing well? Where are we winning? What are some of the things that we are exceeding, to me, expectations in the market? And, the Appleton Rum Tour, kudos to them. They've created an amazing product, a first world product. We have, Jamaica Food and Drink Festival, which we've brought together local, international chefs, and we are looking to bring in as many food tourists as possible once the pandemic allows. We have, companies like Pure Chocolate Company. We have Chef Simpson, who you talk about exporting culinary tourism. He's in New York doing amazing things. One of the biggest ambassadors for Jamaica cuisine out there. And we have all our panmen or jerkmen. Everyone is playing a role. And of course, Lisa Binns at Stush in the Bush. We have Miss T's, doing amazing things as well. And so for us, we know that persons are interested. We have persons in the industry who want to take culinary tourism to another level. So, we have celebrated culinary tourism in the past, and persons have seen it as an opportunity. But what can we do on a bigger level? And who is doing it? Who is really winning on an international level? So if you look at my screen, what you'll see is the world's best cities for food. Of course, these lists vary because everyone accredits differently or evaluates differently. But you look at a country like Beirut, a city like Beirut, and you look at Lebanon, and for some persons, you think like, wow, number 2. Their culinary scene is phenomenal because their chefs are dedicated to providing authentic cuisine and fusion cuisine. New Orleans, NOLA, many of us would have gone to NOLA, and they are known for their food. They're very intentional about music and food, and they work hand in hand together. Of course, you have Florence in Italy. Italian food is probably marketed so super strong at this point that I don't think that they really need the brand. When you think about Italy and you think about the brand, you automatically, like sushi, when you think about Japan, you think about Italy. So that, the brand equity is tremendous. My dream is that one day Jamaica is within the top 5. And I think it's possible. I do think so. I think that we can do it. The truth is, we need to ensure that we stick to this roadmap because you have to have a solid plan. For us, we decided that we want to own the space. We want to be successful in this space for our country. For us, this is nation building, and we started with festival. Then this year, we're launching something really cool. And in a few minutes, you'll see a video, which is Jamaica Food and Drink Kitchens. It is the first of its kind in Jamaica. It's a fully equipped experience kitchen, and it's going to change the game in Kingston, in Jamaica, and in the Caribbean. It's a huge investment. We've had a lot of support, both from, of course, Minister of Tourism, as well as TEF and, Visa. We need partnerships. Everyone on this table will say to you, we cannot do this without partners. And so we're really happy that we're able to launch this soon. And then, of course, to really create culinary tourism, you need tours. So look out for us in 2023 or sooner, where we'll launch tours. So thank you, guys. Jamaica Food and Drink Festival is happening this year, and all our events will be held in the kitchen, which is, again, a game changer for Kingston and Jamaica and culinary tourism. So I'm going to hand you over to the tech team to show you our video. Thanks again.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one word we could use is delectable. Very exciting stuff. And I share the dream, I share the passion that Nazma has just exuded and conveyed to us. And, I think, again, that common thread of experience keeps coming out. We heard it in Tommy's presentation, we heard it in Nazma's presentation. And in fact, what she said was that they are curators of memorable food experiences. And she's intentional about that. And it's the same way that the Ministry of Tourism and the TEF, as well as TLN, are very intentional about the way in which we are curators of seamless, immersive, and fluid connectivity of all of these network paths. And so you're going to see a common thread running through all of them. The only other thing I will say, Nazma, is we probably should have left you for last before lunch, Jamaica time. But I'm going to use moderator's privileges to change the program a little bit. I'm going to, or Director of Tourism, Donovan White, I'm going to take him at the end because he has the job of sort of pulling all of this together and making sure that that fluidity is properly communicated to our international markets. So, and of course, he's a man who likes shopping. I assure you, when he's out there selling Jamaica, he's not shopping, but he's dying to hear what we're going to get from our next speaker, who is Kerry-Ann Clark of Moda. So before we go to a very exciting video from Kerry-Ann, I just want to tell you a little bit about her. Kerry-Ann was born on April 29, 1975, is a Jamaican entrepreneur who has a passion for fashion and the creative industries. Her innate fashion sense led her to Paris, where she studied design marketing at the Parsons School of Design. She lived in Paris for 5 years and interned at the prestigious Vogue magazine until her return to Jamaica in 1997. She was first runner-up in Miss Jamaica World in 1998, obviously at the age of 8. I knew I always wanted, and this is a quote from her, I knew I always wanted to take all I learned and everything I was exposed to back to Jamaica. That's when I opened the doors of my very own boutique, Kerry Man Woman Home, back in 2004. My never-ending passion and zest for all things creative led me to expand past my original dream of just owning a boutique. Nothing excites me more than supporting and encouraging industry innovators with raw talent. So I also mentor and work with emerging Caribbean designers and artisans throughout Jamaica on brand development, because I have a huge desire to give back to the industry in a way that will continue to help it grow. In 2012, she conceptualized the collection Moda. Moda is a series of events with a mandate to promote, market, and sell the work from the region's best creative talents and help them to grow their business into a sustainable business model. She's an external examiner at the Edna Manley School of Visual Arts. She's a vegetarian and animal activist and describes herself as an introverted extrovert who thoroughly enjoys traveling, scuba diving, exploring nature and the world on and below land. I invite you to view a video, and the next voice you will hear is the voice of Kerry-Ann.
Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you so much to Tef for inviting me to speak today. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so excited to be here. And I'd like to start by just explaining a little bit about what Moda is and why Moda started in the first place. So it is a platform for creative talent, and creative talent not only in fashion, it's art, ceramics, fashion, music, food, and just capturing the creative industries as a whole. And what we do is we work with all of these creatives to promote, market their products. And this whole series of events, which is Moda Runway, Moda Markets, Moda Talks, which are workshops, and Moda Music, which we work with musicians to bring together emerging musicians. So it was born pretty much because I found that a lot of creatives who I was examining at Edna Manley, or who was coming to my store for assistance or asking me to sell their products, they didn't fully understand the business model. So where we have, I think, some of the best creative talents ever to exist in the world, a lot of the creatives need assistance in organizing the whole business behind their creativity. So how do you get from concepts, implementation to market? So that is what Moda is all about. And that is our dream for this trade show platform, is for it to become the biggest platform in the Caribbean, showcasing the best creative Caribbean talent that exists. So Moda started in 2012, and it started the Runway show invitation only, which is very similar to how it works internationally. And the idea is to promote the fashion designers to A1 demographic, so that afterwards they can now shop the collections or pre-order collections going forward for the next season. Moda Market started off with about 25 exhibitors who welcomed a couple hundred persons. And today we're now welcoming over 3,000 persons with over 100 exhibitors in the different categories. And we are also very happy and very proud to also welcome about 25 to 30 wholesale buyers with storefronts to Moda Market, so that these creatives can now move from just selling retail to one person and getting into multiple storefronts to promote their brand. Moda also started because I love to travel, and one of the things I do, and Nazma is so completely correct, I travel to eat for sure, I travel to explore. And one of the things that I also enjoy doing is meeting creative talent. And it also inspires me to come back to speak to the creatives here to say, well, this is happening, this is possible, let us get crack-a-lacking so that you can now start selling wholesale and expanding your business and your product range and diversifying, so that you can now enter into hotel shops and markets and trade show platforms. So one of the companies, or one of the persons who I really admire, is Ashley Rousseau from Beanie Bud. And a lot of this creative talent, I find, is dying. So Ashley pretty much saw that happening in the straw industry, and she said, no, this is crazy. We're so known for straw products. Why am I not seeing more happening? Why am I not seeing a larger product range? And she pretty much got together, got these straw makers under one roof and guided them as it relates to design. So, I mean, I think all of you will say, you know, you go into the shops, and I feel like it's the same thing that you're seeing. 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 Like it's the same what is doing. So she guides these straw makers. So she's giving more employment. She's inspiring these makers who probably got bored with doing what they've always been doing for how long. And then she markets these products to gift shops. So now Beanie Bun is available in multiple stores, providing a better shopping experience for tourists and improved income for these creators. And that's what Moda is pretty much about. We work in the Caribbean just because we want to take advantage of the whole CARICOM trade. And because of the store, I go to trade shows every single year, and I'm just like, why can we not have a trade show platform where our creatives are benefiting from people flying in? So our goal is eventually to have the West Elms or the Anthropologies, all these stores that support creative talent to get to Jamaica to now shop these collections from our Caribbean creatives or Jamaican creatives, and also to give the tourist a way better shopping experience. Yeah, I think that is about it. Our 10-year plan, that's what we're aiming to do, and this is what we're working towards. And I think 2022 is going to be our relaunch of Collection Moda after this 2-year hiatus with COVID.
Thank you so much. I was just getting into it. I'm excited by all that you're doing, and when I listen to your growth of moving from 25 exhibitors to over 100 exhibitors, moving from participation of 100 to over 3,000, you certainly understand what's required to take us to the next level. And so we're very excited for what the future looks like. And as you said, you travel to eat, which connects again to our previous speaker. You travel to explore, and I dare add, you travel to experience. Again, that common thread of the experiential product. So thank you so much for that, Carrie Ann. That was exciting. Now, if we're going to be talking about diversifying a product, we have to engage with our Jamaica Promotions Corporation. JAMPRO has always been at the heart of a lot of what we do, and what better person than Carol Straw to represent JAMPRO today, because Carol has extensive management and operational experience spanning over 18 years in marketing and sales practices within the tourism sector. She has worked closely with investors from all over the world in establishing their investment projects in Jamaica, as well as with corporate entities in North America, Europe, and South America, in the management rather of individual and group travel to the Caribbean. So she has good knowledge of a lot of things, but she has great knowledge of French, German, and Spanish. She's a team motivator with proven track record in providing effective and timely solutions to various business and management problems. In her current position as manager of tourism and services for Jamaica Promotions, JAMPRO, she's responsible for the promotion of investments in these areas and for the development and execution of related strategic marketing plans. Carol has worked extensively in the tourism sector in both the government and private sectors, primarily in the area of sales and marketing. She specializes in government liaison and marketing. Carol, I invite you to share this breadth and depth of experience with us.
Thank you, Professor Spencer. It's a pleasure to be part of this very august panel. I must say that a lot of the things that we have heard all tie into one another in some way. And no differently would be the whole area of medical tourism and wellness tourism. So we're just gonna touch on it and give you a sense of what has been done to date. For the benefit of the audience, just to tell everyone a little bit about JAMPRO, we're the Economic Development Agency of the Government of Jamaica, and our job is to promote trade and investment. With respect to the question of medical tourism, we were charged to help to develop the framework for medical tourism in Jamaica, which involved us working closely with our partners, the Ministry of Tourism, as well as the Ministry of Health. And so to that extent, we have undertaken some studies, the results of which were very interesting. And we have also proposed measures and a policy for the development of the framework for medical tourism. So according to PricewaterhouseCoopers, the medical tourism market will reach US 125 billion by 2021, right? PwC says that the market for wellness is 808 billion US, but there are other sources that indicate that it's even more than that, right? Now, with respect to the medical tourism thrust, right, we see that the growth potential is such that it's not only producing for the medical fraternity a source of potential earnings, but it would benefit the tourism sector in general, because what happens is that the patients travel for medical attention, but they typically also travel with their families or with someone to support them while they are tending to their medical needs. And of course, what that means is that the potential spend of that tourist is much greater than the average leisure tourist. And it also, in terms of the whole development of the industry, a lot depends on ensuring or in creating the right environment to meet the demands of medical tourists. So it may not necessarily be the typical hotel, for example, to accommodate a medical tourist, but it may be hotels that are specifically designed to accommodate, say, let us say, the family members on one end, which would represent the typical leisure aspect of the group. And then, facilities within that entity that gives the patient the privacy that they need to deal with their own health issue. According to our Vision 2030 plan, Jamaica should not only focus on traditional tourists, but aim to attract those who are seeking more active and meaningful experiences. So we're not just looking at traveling for health alone, we're looking at even things like retirement communities as well. As a matter of fact, in 2018, it was estimated that about 14 to 16 million persons crossed borders to seek medical attention. The good news is that Jamaica has a number of attributes that lends itself to the development of this industry. We're blessed with being in close proximity, not only to North America, but to other major gateways in the world. As we all know, it takes only about 90 minutes to Miami. It takes 3 hours to New York. London is about 8-9 hours, and we have a number of airlines that provide service to Jamaica. We are English speaking, and of course our cultural compatibility with major markets such as North America also is a plus for this niche in the market. Our infrastructure is pretty good, and we also have cost-effective medical procedures. When you take a look, for example, at some of the costs that are associated with some medical procedures, in 2016, a heart bypass in the USA costed $144,000. For the same procedure in Jamaica, you're talking $18,000. Okay, and of course we have a cadre of highly qualified medical practitioners. A lot of them are board certified and are trained in various specialties. So the foundation is there. Our nurses are in great demand. I don't think the University of the West Indies produces graduates in a number of areas, including medical sciences, science and technology, and so on. And in 2017, we had a total of 4,500 nurses in the country, and 1,000 of these nurses specialized in urgent care facilities, such as intensive care units and emergency rooms. Now, the nurses are in such heavy demand globally that the need to constantly retrain and replenish our nurses, or our source of nurses then has to be constant. So that gives you a sense of the quality of professionals that we have that are able to service this industry. And in a diagnostic study that was done by, it was commissioned by us through the Commonwealth Secretariat, right, we found that, medical tourism is already happening in Jamaica. It's just that people take it for granted and just see it as, just a patient coming from overseas to visit the doctor. So approximately in 20 to 30% of income in 27 private surgical facilities was derived from foreign patients. And over half of these patients were persons coming from the Jamaican diaspora. There were also other persons who came from other regions within the Caribbean. Again, our strategic location and also the connectivity that we have, particularly with our airlines and other facilities, makes us an attractive destination for something like this. We have easy access to health insurance. And remember, one of the reasons that medical or persons travel for medical reasons, particularly in the major markets, is this to do with long waiting lists for particular treatments under insurance or no insurance availability, and they're able to come to somewhere like Jamaica and get the same treatment for considerably less. So there are insurance providers, both the homegrown insurance providers such as Sagicor and Guardian Life, and other major international health insurance providers that are available to handle the needs of the medical tourists. Now, what we have found at JAMPRO is that there is a need really to develop a policy framework to accommodate the development of the industry. Because one of the things that there are several things that we have to look at, and these include, among other things that relate to the ethics, of the industry, in ensuring that there is fair play all around, that the local community does not suffer in their health needs because the country is only focused on catering for overseas health needs, right? So there has to be a balance there. Another important thing in the whole question of medical tourism is the issue of accreditation, right, and standards. So we want to ensure that the standards, and Jamaica does have very good quality professionals in the medical fraternity, but the medical tourist feels comforted when an institution or an entity has international accreditation, right? Which also it indicates that there's a certain conformity to standards, and also that there is accountability, all right? There are incentives for the industry with a limited list of items that can be brought in free of import duty, but that list may need to be expanded as the industry grows. And of course, to ensure that the practitioners in the industry are regulated. They are regulated through the Medical Council. And of course, right now, we want to ensure that any doctor from overseas that comes in conforms with the requirements of entities such as the Medical Council. Back to the study that we did through the Commonwealth Secretariat, we found that there were 3 areas that Jamaica could take advantage of. The question of elective surgeries, the question of dentistry, actually the area of dentistry in terms of why people travel to Jamaica for medical health is a huge area. And also the question of medical diagnostic services. So we have the ability to provide these services already, and people are already taking advantage of them. Now, there are many opportunities in this area, because what you have to recognize is that medical tourism, just as how some of the other areas mentioned for their own areas, it has its own ecosystem, right? So we're not just talking nurses and doctors. We're talking about even things that we take for granted, such as planning travel, having concierge services for people like this, right? Catering facilities that cater for the specific needs of this person. Of course, the pandemic forced us into using telemedicine. There are more doctors that were advertising their services through the use of telemedicine, and people are able to go online because of the COVID-19 issues to consult with their doctors on issues. And that is something that's an area of medical tourism that has great potential for Jamaica. Medical schools, and we have 1 or 2 in Jamaica that do pre-med training for young students who wish to go overseas and practice medicine. We also have our very own University of the West Indies, which has had a very long tradition as being a teaching hospital, and which has produced many of our talented doctors that are recognized globally. So there are the opportunity to invest in specialized hospitals and clinics. There are possibilities for public-private partnerships with some of the facilities that are owned by government. Then there's a whole area of pharmaceutical and medical equipment manufacturing, and there are even areas in research and development. For example, we have been talking about cannabis and all that it can do, both from the medical side and of course the well-established recreational side. But from the medical side, the applications are tremendous. Psilocybin mushroom has been used to treat people that suffer from acute depression and other mental issues. So these are things that we can develop. Jamaica is well known for its research in things like sickle cell anemia, right? We are also known for developing things like treatments for glaucoma and asthma out of what is now known as the cannabis sativa plant. So there are many applications that can take place, and medical tourism provides an opportunity for some of these. So just to give a sense, again, there are other areas: ophthalmology, gynecology, cosmetic surgery is a big one, cardiology. I believe we have the Heart Institute of the Caribbean here, and also the Medical Associates Hospital here in Jamaica that have done treatments for cardiac patients traveling from overseas. There are also opportunities in the area of bariatric surgery, in vitro fertilization. Jamaica has a very well-established program in that regard, and even areas such as stem cell programs, and oncology center. So the list goes on in terms of what we can do. I mentioned the diagnostic services. There is still room for growth in that area. And of course, there are centers of excellence that the government wants to establish to deal with things that pose a major threat to our population. And I'm of the firm belief that if we can get it right for our population, we can get it right for the rest of the world. So in the area of oncology, right, nephrology, cardiac issues, neurology, and mental illness. These are all opportunities for public and private partnerships with the government of Jamaica to develop centers of excellence in these areas. And of course, I mentioned the psilocybin mushroom, which basically, as one doctor told me when we did a forum on the question of the use of this mushroom, a well-known doctor in psychiatry in Jamaica, he said, the gate has flown. This is something that is taking off, and Jamaica is one of the few areas where research and development in this area can be done effectively and freely to work on issues that relate to mental disorders. And as you know, from arising out of the COVID-19 pandemic, the question of mental health is now at the forefront of not only Jamaica, but many countries, and how to treat with this. So those are the opportunities in medical tourism. But I also wanted to touch briefly on the question of wellness tourism. This market is huge, right? In 2020, it was 793.2 billion US dollars, and it is projected to reach 1,672.6 billion US dollars by 2030. What is wellness? It's an active pursuit of activities, choices, and lifestyle that lead to a state of holistic health. So you can call it then, whereas medical tourism implies treating something that has happened to you from a health perspective, the wellness side focuses on the preventative side of things, right? And It has various elements that relates to your physical well-being, your mental well-being, your spiritual and emotional well-being, as well as your social well-being, and even how the environment impacts on you, right? And according to a document that I was looking at through Hospitality Net, they indicated that there are three mega wellness trends that we have to watch where from the perspective of mainstream hospitality. We can no longer think about treating travel as just leisure because post-pandemic, everybody's mind is on health. So essentially, all travel becomes wellness travels, right? So instead of just people just okay deciding, oh, I'm going to go on a trip to Jamaica or I'm going to go on a trip to Costa Rica, the first thing they think about post-pandemic now is, are the destinations that they are planning to go to, are they focused on my health and well-being? Are there measures in place to control the impact of the pandemic? Are people vaccinated? Is the air quality good? Does the hotel have enough facilities and measures in place to ensure that I'm healthy while I'm staying there, right? It's in other words, the question of having wellness pervading the offering of the hotel now comes to the forefront, right? Because whereas the typical hotel may have a spa or a fitness center, right? What this is suggesting now is that every facility that the hotel offers to you as a consumer now has to have some element in it that can be recognized by you as contributing to your overall well-being and health. Okay?
Absolutely, Carol. I think that that's an excellent point. That pervasiveness
Yes,
throughout the
indeed.
entire offerings is a very good point. I don't know if you had one final concluding statement or was that it?
No, I just have two more points and then I'll wrap
Okay.
up there.
Right.
And the question of nature. Jamaica is blessed with many natural assets, right? And again, I mentioned the issue of mental well-being, right? And it has been recognized that nature or immersion in nature can contribute to your mental health being. So what the trend will be that people will start to look at ways in which they can monetize or commercialize the offering of the nature, the natural or the nature economy, so to speak. And then the whole question of wellness sabbaticals and workations. You have some people who just can't tear themselves away from work, or their jobs are just so demanding that even if they want to tear themselves away from work, it's impossible. And so with technology, with all that's happening digitally, and with now the focus on wellness, it is possible to work from anywhere. The pandemic has taught us to work remotely from home, from the beach, from a mountaintop, and you can do your work and still tend to the question of health and wellness, right? We have many attributes here. We have a natural disposition to natural remedies. We're ranked fifth in the world for endemic life, whether it's flora and fauna, we have natural mineral baths, and we have an established tourism industry. We have many wellness products, wellness foods, etc.
Yes.
How can we enhance the wellness experience more, right? Standards and certifications for things like spas, more curated tours and events. And I think Nazma and Kerry, your products, we're on the money with that. But we need a lot more. We need more curated activities that allows the individual to feel more a part of things like nature, more a part of our food and beverage and so forth, right? We need to preserve our natural assets, build epic experience through healthy Epicurean gastronomy, community tourism, and programs of physical, spiritual, and mental well-being, right? And the list goes on. Wellness themed spas, we have products wellness products abounds in Jamaica, on a small scale. But again, we would need a cluster approach to develop some of these cottage industries. The bottom line is we have a lot to offer, so let's take our share of the pie. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carol. Bursting with information, and a lot of it is the kind of information we need to move forward. In fact, one of the quick things that I'll take from what you said was that Jamaica is blessed with many things, and one, you mentioned proximity, you mentioned the talent, the skill, the qualification, and I add to that we're actually blessed with a very natural diversity. I always tell people that Jamaica on its own is just very diverse, and it's how deliberate and intentional we are about harnessing and cultivating and curating. So just to add that, recently the Vice Chancellor mentioned about how we started with tourism. And so he says we ought to move forward to the past. And I think it was a very, very important thing where he said we started with a heavy focus on medicine and medical tourism and wellness tourism. COVID has presented an opportunity for us to get back there. There's a lot of wellness that needs to happen of the mind and of many other areas.
Mind, body, and spirit.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for that. And I take your point. If we can get it right for locals, we'll get it right for tourists as well.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Carol. This then leads us into some other exciting stuff, because the lady that is about to come to us is one that is going to tease our minds on a very exciting area. We hear about dead zone tourism, we hear about dark tourism, we hear about all kinds of things. But today, Joel Smith is actually going to talk to us about digital nomads, and that's really exciting. I mean, Joel is an interior designer and owner of her design firm, If Walls Could Talk. And she's co-founder of the Hub Co-working and a licensed investment advisor, having previously worked in the financial sector for 12 years. She has over 10 years experience as an entrepreneur in the interior design industry and has a passion for creating spaces that are both beautiful and functional. It was this passion and entrepreneurial spirit that inspired the concept of Jamaica's first co-working space in 2016. In the midst of the uncertainty surrounding the pandemic, the Hub opened its second location in downtown Kingston in July 2020 in partnership with Kingston Creative. A proud Rotarian, Joel believes in the power of community and collaboration, which are the cornerstones of a successful co-working space. Joel is a graduate of the University of the West Indies and Immaculate High School. Joel, over to you. Joel, I think you're muted.
Thank you so much, Prof. And good morning to everyone. We don't often look at the impact of the tourism industry outside of, the regular hotels on the coast and tourist attractions, craft markets, etc. And I think forums like these are really important because, I have learned so much already, and it's interesting. It really is interesting to see that tourism expands way beyond, what we're so accustomed to, and what we believe has been the end all of our tourism product over the last few years. And if the pandemic has really taught us anything, it's that our tourism sector is made up of several pillars, many of which were negatively impacted, particularly at the beginning of the pandemic when we closed our borders to many international travelers. And one of the pillars that actually grew in popularity during the pandemic would have been digital nomads. And as employees began working from home and more people became freelancers and entrepreneurs, a new world of possibilities emerged where, people realized that with the help of technology, they could literally work from anywhere. And MBO Partners actually reported that in the United States alone, there are 15.5 million workers who describe themselves as digital nomads. And that's an increase from 42% in 2020, but a whopping 112% from 2019. Another survey that we're looking at here from abrotheabroad.com revealed that there are over 35 million digital nomads globally, with an estimated economic value of $778 billion per annum. So just to put that in perspective, if the digital nomad community were a country, it would rank number 41 in terms of population size, right behind Canada. So that's a really huge community that we really need to be able to hone and cultivate. And, you know, the primary focus of digital nomads is really location freedom and a flexible lifestyle. So a recent FlexJob survey in the US, told us that 65% of respondents reported wanting to be full-time remote employees post-pandemic, and 27% of workers were actually willing to take a 10 to 20% pay cut just so that they could work remotely and have that flexibility. So that's very telling. In fact, Jamaica's brand proposition is one that is it's very laid back, and we tend to rank among the top coolest countries, I think, in the world quite frequently. Nazma alluded to that earlier in her presentation, and that is something that's very appealing to digital nomads. So much so that Jamaica actually was ranked in a recent survey number 8 in the top 10 countries rated the best for remote working visas, remote working visas being pursued by that category of travelers. So co-working is a concept that really ties in very, very well with digital nomads. And it was first coined in 2005 in the US. The first co-working space was actually in San Francisco. And it attracted the attention of digital nomads at the time because these spaces fostered their need for a dedicated space to work that didn't feel as restrictive as a traditional office environment, but still allowed you to form the friendships and cultivate the network that you would have been able to do in that traditional environment, but with the right degree of flexibility. And as the co-working space industry grew, the number of digital nomads worldwide also grew with that movement. So they developed somewhat of a symbiotic relationship. And right now, there are over 19,000 co-working spaces worldwide. And it's a number that continues to grow. In fact, one of the largest co-working spaces in the US recently just listed their IPO on the US stock market, which is WeWork. And of those 19,000 spaces, less than 5 of those spaces are actually located in Jamaica, with the hub being the first and largest one in Jamaica, and I think maybe the second largest in the Caribbean, based on square footage. And the hub is the brainchild of 4 women, an interior designer, an entrepreneur, which is myself, a marketer, a customs broker, and a finance manager. And we have been providing our community of remote workers and businesses the freedom and amenities to be more productive and truly enjoy work. And we opened our first location on Lady Musgrave Road. And in 2020, mid-pandemic, we actually opened our second location in downtown Kingston, the Kingston Creative Hub, in partnership with Kingston Creative. And this is just a glimpse of what it looks like, our newest location. And interestingly, one of the reasons we actually chose to have our second location downtown was because of the potential exposure to digital nomads and to tourists. Because I don't know if anybody has been downtown recently, but we are actually on Water Lane. Water Lane is our backyard. And right along there, we have quite a few murals, and it has become a real tourist attraction, even for local residents, who just walk, they take pictures, etc. And it's something that really pulls people to that area. And so it's definitely something once our market reopens and we get our cruise ship coming back down to Port Royal, etc. We would have access then to that group of tourists. And also, one of the hub's locations, the first one, or Lady Musgrave location, is actually also within a tourist zone, which is, in the area of New Kingston. And so we find that digital nomads drop in frequently to get work done and to also integrate themselves into the community, because the digital nomad life can be a little lonely. And so we need spaces like co-working spaces where people can pop in, they can interact with like-minded people, and they often host forums. And we actually have had a few digital nomads pop in. We had Nikki from Singapore who came and spoke about her perspective on marketing strategies. And that was interesting, because you're not hearing from somebody who's in your country or in your even in your hemisphere. This is somebody all the way from Singapore, sharing what their best practices were. And that actually pulled quite a large crowd. We even had Fabian, who is from Serbia, and he hosted a forum called How to Run a Company from a Land Rover Defender. And that was also interesting, because he was basically saying to us that, look, I have a thriving business and I am a full-time digital nomad. I drive across, however many countries, so it was a very interesting conversation. And I found that people really wanted to know, even locals, about how they too could be digital nomads. So, it's really a growing sector. And the exchange of information and ideas is a powerful byproduct of these community tourism type events, and they really should be encouraged. One of the surveys quoted earlier estimated that over 20% of digital nomads prefer to work solely from a co-working space. And so if Jamaica were to strategically target these types of visitors, the spin-off for the co-working sector would be significant. Currently, there is an organic flow of digital nomads into our spaces, but a targeted marketing strategy would reap significant returns. And I think one of the issues with developing these strategies lies with data. Are we collecting the data that would allow us to track how many digital nomads are coming into our shores and their habits? Certainly we have people who request visas for that purpose, but the average digital nomad enters the country like any other visitor. And so it's really hard to track or to capture the true number of this sector of visitors. And it would be excellent if we could capture that, because also it would lead to having us know what their true financial contribution to the sector is, and the different industries that they touch. So for example, digital nomads tend to remain on the island for a much longer period than the average tourist. And so they spend far more money, and they're basically living here. And they're also shopping local. They're interacting with local businesses, as opposed to their traditional tourist counterparts who tend to remain within the walls of the resort. And so partnerships with these entities that can help to mine this data, like the Tourism Enhancement Fund and other relevant agencies, would really be useful in developing this pillar of the tourism sector and the co-working space industry in Jamaica, which continues to grow. And in 2015, we had, just reminding you, we had 0 co-working spaces in Jamaica. And in 2016, the hub introduced the concept, and now we have 3 co-working space brands in operation, with a few other entities that offer shared office spaces. And we just have to we have to actually make that distinction, because co-working spaces tend to focus on community building and professional development, while shared office spaces are really just in the business of real estate. And it's really the community aspect of co-working spaces that attracts the digital nomads. And, the pandemic has taught us that that the more we diversify our tourism product, is the better we'll be able to adapt and weather the storm of the next pandemic or natural disaster or, you know, any other shock to our tourism sector, because let us all acknowledge that another shock will come. And, you know, we ought to be in a much better position, having learned from the last 2 years, you know, so that we can handle it when it does happen in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joel. Very exciting stuff. I did tell our participants that they were in for a treat, and a lot of what you've said here fits very well with the contemporary consumer. This idea of flexibility, the fact that you've pointed to an opportunity for a growth area with 19,000 of these spaces existing and only 5 in our environment and our context. But what I like about what you said, which is really important, is that mid-pandemic, you opened a second location. That's the fierceness of our people. And for women, taking on the fight in a time of uncertainty is really, really outstanding in my mind. And the idea that the kind of tourist we're looking for is found with that similar interest. We've always been talking for years about extracting more tourist dollar from the individuals, so they stay longer, they spend more. These are all things that are attractive to us. These are all things that are attractive to Mr. Donovan White. Certainly, some of the discussions we've had in the past, we looked at the fact that we wanted more involvement of our tourists in communities. You've indicated that that's one of the features of such an individual. And of course, that community element of co-working spaces will always be at the heart of this growth. So the next gentleman who comes to us is a very good friend of mine. And I remember when he first came to the job at the JTB, I was the head of the TPDCO. And I always remember that this was one of the first marketing guys I met who got it, that it had to do with the product. He came in my office on maybe day 1 or day 2. And Mr. White said, listen, I just want to have an information dump on you. And a lot of what he was dumping, just straight from his thought processes and his heart, were very similar to a lot of what we're hearing today. And so it is maybe almost fortuitous that he closes this program today with his presentation as the man with the primary responsibility for ensuring that our markets understand all that we are made of and that this diversity is critical. So Mr. Donovan White was appointed Director of Tourism in February 2018, bringing to the JTB over 20 years experience as a senior executive in marketing and business development. A strategist and a business leader, he's responsible for promoting and further enhancing Jamaica's reputation as the premier destination in the global marketplace, pursuing an aggressive and robust marketing agenda with a keen focus on technology, all with a view to exceeding major growth goals. He's keen on leveraging existing industry relationships with investors, hoteliers, visitors, and key stakeholders to help the JTB embrace the new global paradigm shifts in tourism, concurrently expanding the destination's global reach. He's committed to excellence, respect for others, communication, teamwork, accountability, and honesty. And that respect he has for others is also reciprocated. I have a great deal of respect for this professional and my friend. I welcome Mr. Donovan White, the Director of Tourism for the Jamaica Tourist Board, to
Thanks, Andrew.
His presentation to us at this point. I know he's joining us from some remote location in the world. Donovan, over to you.
Thanks, Andrew. And good afternoon, everyone. If I seem a little jaded, don't blame me. I literally came off a flight and rushed to a hotel near me to get connected so I could make this, I could be with you. But, you know, while I'm trying to get my screen up, I'll just say that the discussion so far is unbelievably on point. I'm trying to find my presentation now. Right. You're seeing my screen, right?
Yes, we're seeing your share. Yes.
No, I just need to find the presentation. But anyways, I was saying that the conversations and the points raised thus far is absolutely phenomenal and on point with where we believe we are now and where we believe we need to go. And interestingly, Tommy started with a level of energy about entertainment, and truly it's a great place to be because it really dominates our presence and positioning in the global marketplace. When you say Jamaica, people say Bob. When you say Jamaica, people say Usain or Elaine or Shelley. When you say Jamaica, they talk about beauty. And those are some of the words that resonate with our brand internationally. That makes us unique and makes us such a powerful force to be reckoned with. So I think, if I jump right in here on this presentation, really that the team put together, it wasn't me, I just made a few adjustments to it. But today, what I'll try to cover off, to kind of bring the conversation, all of the conversations together, is why diversify the tourism product? Why now? And kind of have a look at what the global and international space is saying at this point in time. And finally, what are some of the opportunities that we see within the tourism family, which starts at the level of the minister and the ministry, and redounds and is channeled in different parts right throughout the ministry and its agencies, right through to execution. And it's important that I mention that because this ministry is an extremely powerful one with some extremely powerful parts that each have a very keen focus on some important areas of the tourism product. And sometimes we come into the picture last in terms of execution, but at the front end in terms of strategy. But Andrew said it right earlier, I always believed and maintained and execute in all of the various products I've had to work with in my experience on the product, or the quality of the product and the quality of the delivery of that product. And so for me, it was important coming in that TPDCO was my right hand, because if the product isn't right, then the truth is that we're marketing we're not marketing well. So from that perspective, it's safe to say we are on a journey, and we're not totally there, but we are getting there. So why diversify the tourism product? International travelers are becoming increasingly demanding, with high expectations for destinations they plan to visit. And I don't just say that for the sake of saying words, but the truth is, people are now demanding more for their money, more for their value. And the competition that is now in the global marketplace, rivaling Jamaica and every other sun destination, is phenomenal. And we can talk about that in our Q&A or discussion forum after. Trends show a shift from the traditional sun, sand, and sea, somebody said that earlier, towards a more interactive, experiential tourism. And this is actually one of the fastest growing subsectors in our industry. I said this at the start of my journey with the Tourist Board, that if you were to Google 4 years ago, were to Google Caribbean tourism, you would see a screen of blue waters, and you couldn't tell the difference between where is Jamaica and where is Bahamas, or where is Barbados, or where is Antigua, because they all look the same. And so part of what we've had to do, and we've been focused on and using technology to do it, is to begin to differentiate the Jamaican product from all other sun destinations, whilst maintaining the beauty of our sun, sand, and sea. And so that brings about the product diversification that we have had to undergo and still is undergoing with our industry stakeholders, who are obviously pivotal to further boosting Jamaica's global competitiveness and the successful tapping of new markets. We are diversifying because tourism means business. Business drives employment and new employment drives national development. If we just took that as a quick three-legged stool, you begin to see immediately, why tourism, the tourism sector is the second largest foreign exchange earner for Jamaica, second only to remittances. And the only reason why it's second to remittances is because there are more Jamaicans living outside of Jamaica than there are living in. Someone joked some time ago that if every Jamaican who live overseas decided to come home, we wouldn't have place to put them, and that's the truth. And pre-pandemic, the tourism sector directly contributed some 9.8% of GDP, and the word there directly is important because many people don't understand that because of the linkages within the tourism sector with other industry sectors, the induced and indirect earnings from tourism makes up about 34% of GDP. So in effect, tourism all ends up produces a third of our GDP contribution in our pre-pandemic state up to the end of 2019. That 9.8% actually works out to about 206 billion Jamaican dollars of contribution to the coffers or to the consolidated fund, and employs just over 12% of the Jamaica's labor force. Those are strong factors that makes the tourism product and the tourism industry, if not the most important industry to our economy. I'm not sure what else is at this point in time. We can argue that point till the cows come home. The numbers stand true. The destination is paying close attention to the drivers of travel post-COVID, which include health and wellness. Carol spoke about that earlier. Attention to sustainability and the rejuvenation of self. The opportunities where we see the largest sets of opportunities are the confluence of opportunities that exist for the industry. Is a focused development of our niche markets to support rapid expansion in areas such as luxury, which is our high valued travelers. And I must tell you, I read somewhere recently in a financial journal that some $3.8 trillion of wealth changed hands during this pandemic. And what all that means is that there is a transition of wealth from the older generation to the younger generation. And that has happened through business changing hands, business going out of business, new business being formed, people dying, willing or bequeathing their wealth to their siblings and or their children. So that market has blown up globally. More people are flying private, more people are traveling in style, traveling in luxury, wanting to go to and spend and really splurge on themselves. They call it now revenge travel. That's actually a thing globally today. Health and wellness. I think the pandemic has also forced a bit of focus on not just healthy living by virtue of how people treat their bodies with food and what they take in, but also the wellness side of things in terms of taking care of themselves. And they want to go to places where they can have these experiences and to live out themselves in a way that make them feel accomplished and feel like they've gotten value for their money. And then the other thing that has become increasingly important and part of the segment that we have to pay significant focus on is the environmental sustainability. Because if we don't protect our surroundings, if we don't invest in our surroundings, we are going to lose it, and we're going to lose it fast, and therefore with it lose the product. So the ministry has set some very clear goals in terms of what our next 5 years of planning and strategizing around the growth and expansion of tourism as Jamaica's #1 industry must focus on. A, make the tourism sector more resilient to future shocks, whether they are human or natural in origin. B, make the tourism environment sustainable according to the triple bottom line. C, offer visitors an unmatched value proposition based on innovative, diversified, and differentiated tourism products. And D, return the tourism sector to a growth trajectory by attracting a wider, a more balanced range of high-quality investments in accommodation, attractions, and activities. So that's kind of the four-prong attack as the ministry sees it from a broad perspective. And obviously within that frame, you have to think about, what are going to be our demand triggers, are the triggers that drive, people to the destination. And we talk about, and this is why we're diversifying, because we have to make a destination that people want to go to. Then we have to look at what are the supply triggers, so that the more people you bring, the more diversified you make the market that comes to Jamaica, is the more diversified you have to make the supply chain to serve that demand, so that you don't have, so that we can continue rather to have a 42% or better return rate of visitors to Jamaica. And then you have to think about the institutional and governance measures in terms of what are the things that we must do from a policy level to ensure that the supply side and the demand side meet in the middle, and we can create balance, and or as we call it in economics, equilibrium. And then the last one, and probably the most important one, is the human capital development measures, because the truth is that our #1 asset within this industry is our people. And without them performing at their optimal and growing in terms of employing more Jamaicans within the space, we are not going to be able to deliver an authentic product that we have grown to deliver over the years. So what's in the global perspective? Destinations who don't diversify tourism product run the risk of being left behind. Kind of cliche, but it is the truth. COVID pandemic has helped destinations around the world see value of sustainability through product diversification. If you don't see the importance of sustaining your environment as a tourism product, which depends so much on our natural assets, then you're going to lose it at some point, and therefore lose the industry and the value to the country. And then the competition for market share with new destinations being born daily is happening as we speak. I just came back from World Expo in Dubai, and the level of focus that there is on sustainability, mobility, as well as technology at the Expo is unreal. And that's a hill that we have to climb very fast. Near to us, Trinidad and Tobago Tourism Authorities have initiated a 3-phase project that will strategically develop a wellness tourism niche for their destination. So they've marked a line in the sand around wellness. That's where they want to play, and they're going to put all their eggs in that basket. So we have competition there. Barbados is diversifying tourism resources source markets by exploring new destinations in Europe, Latin America, and even China. These are markets that we are ready. We both are, and we both are deepening our effort to grow in these marketplaces. The difference or the advantage, obviously, that Jamaica has over Barbados is sheer size and scale. You know, they'll be able to compete with us, but up to a point because of their size. Spain, to go further afield and away from us, but look at one of the big players in the global tourism product cycle. They're saying, their Minister of Industry, Commerce and Tourism is saying, we are promoting product diversification, showcasing what differentiates us: gastronomy, culture, history, nature, congresses, which is knowledge, etc. That doesn't sound very different than all the things everybody on this call just spoke about. And our strategy is already bearing fruit. And we have noticed that tourists are coming from segments other than the purely holiday segment. Again, you know, I think Carol Straw really dived into that in a serious way. Things like medical tourism is a big global industry. And we have to figure out infrastructurally how we play in that space. Some of the opportunities, and you know, we see the opportunities, and you know, we're led by a very visionary minister, one who has dedicated his life and his work to tourism, to Jamaica, and now to giving himself to the world as a thought leader. And his thought was, we will build out a new national tourism model. This is Jamaica he's talking about, based on a diversified portfolio of unique and authentic attractions and activities that draw heavily on Jamaica's natural and cultural assets. Now that's coming from the man who leads the ministry, the man who leads the industry, the man who has taken onto himself in large parts the ownership and accountability to ensure that Jamaica transition to be and continue to be one of the world's leading destinations. Our diversification strategies, purely now from a product management and marketing perspective. Our brand pillars is really geared around leveraging our larger-than-life culture through music and food. And we pick music and food because, again, music, because it is something that we are naturally known for and that we attract people to. Jamaica has contributed 7 genres of music to the world. No other nation in the world can claim that, a similar achievement. Food, 80% of the people who travel around the world today travel for food experiences, and they spend actually 44% of their travel expenses on food experiences. So clearly food is a big part of why people travel. We have some of the most delectable taste, smell, and creation or creativity around food that you'll find anywhere in the world. And I'm glad to hear that our food and beverage festivals are serious about doing the things that will make food a rich part of our continued growth. Messaging, we want to highlight health and wellness and quality accommodations to support what we are now developing as a Jamaica Lux collection. And what all this means is that we have an opportunity to play in a space, attracting an audience, a high value spending audience that is looking for a Lux vacation or a Lux experience that includes their accommodation, but it includes all the things that they can do in a way that makes the experience worth paying for and worth doing over and over again. And so we're building up that collection of experiences to create a niche within the destination for Lux vacations. Imagery, we want to focus really on including the environmental and socially conscious imagery to drive the propensity to travel. Simply put, it's not just about the pretty faces and the pretty models, but we have some of the most spectacular photo places or picturesque location in Jamaica, and we are photographing them. We also are videoing them because we need content to drive our imagery and to drive our use of technology. Communication, we have to focus on combating the perceptions of dangerous. I must tell you, I didn't include it in, or the guys didn't include it in this slide, but we do an annual brand tracker globally, a global brand tracker each year, covering about a survey size of about just under 3,000 respondents throughout our key source markets, as well as we do some oversampling as well. In 2018, when they did the word association to Jamaica, dangerous was the most repeated word. In 2019, dangerous got probably about 35% smaller in terms of word association. In 2021, sorry, because we didn't do one in 2020. In 2021, dangerous almost didn't exist in the word association to Jamaica. So it means we're doing something right in terms of our messaging and in our communication. But I think in driving the message home that even though, like everywhere else in the world, there is danger to travel, there's danger to every destination. The danger that exists in Jamaica does not have an impact on our tourists. In fact, I think the statistics suggest that less than 1%, or there's a less than 1% reported acts of violence against tourists in Jamaica over, I think, the last 10 years. So the truth is that the dangerous is more in our society, but not necessarily affecting the people who visit our destination. And the last one, I spoke about the Jamaica Lux, is to really begin to use this Jamaica Lux collection and our marketing of the destination as a luxury destination to raise the bar in terms of how we communicate, the images we put out, the messages we convey, how we use those messages and the audiences that we engage. We are obviously pursuing an enhanced value creation through product differentiation and diversification. The two things go hand in hand, which basically will allow us to create more demand and to create more uncontested spaces with that demand. We want to focus on 5 emerging tourism models or diversification models: gastronomy, health and wellness, sports and entertainment, shopping, and knowledge.
Director,
yes,
I think that's an excellent place, since our presenters have actually done each of those
yes.
for us. Yeah, I think we're up on the clock.
Yeah,
yeah, we are. You see, that's what happens.
I'm good if you want me to stop here, because we can converse over the rest of it.
Correct. So beautiful. Thank you so much, Director. I just listened with very keen interest at just how synchronized everything has been, from the first presenter right through to our director, who basically indicated that there needs to be a different resilience approach taken. Resilience has essentially been forced upon us. We were always considering it, but it's been forced upon us. And it's clear to us that weak product structures cannot be allowed to continue to exist. Obviously, at the heart of that will be the human capital development, as you said, sir. And naturally, we have to pay attention to the diversification taking place with our neighbors. But at the end of it, we remember that Jamaica has over 100 internationally recognized attractions. And we also remember that a lot of the exciting things being done by Tommy through entertainment, a lot of the stuff being done with food, with gastronomy, by NASMA, a lot of the exciting things happening in terms of shopping. Yes, and all of the things happening in terms of digital nomads and co-working spaces will pull us closer if we're able to harness, coordinate, structure, and make fit for purpose a very deliberate strategy. I'm told by my handlers, we should have had question and answer now. And that's when I know everybody would have been engaged. My handlers are telling me we are absolutely out of time. I wonder if there is one key question from anyone who would have submitted via YouTube or Instagram. If there are any being sent through to me, I'd be happy to take that question very quickly, just one key question. But if there is none, and I will give just about 10 seconds for the tech team to tell me if we do have one burning question coming through. I'm not seeing that message coming through. Therefore, I'm going to take this opportunity to thank everyone. I'm happy for the virtual space because we have all of this documented, right, Director? And we can always revisit it. We can always engage. We can always ruminate, and we can always internalize all of this. And so I wanted to thank all of our panelists for fantastic, thought-provoking, substantive, and also very exciting presentations. And we ask that you will join us in rewatching part 1 in the series by visiting the Tourism Enhancement Fund's YouTube and Facebook pages. And also take a look at this one, part 2, as we continue to engage and stimulate the minds. The Knowledge Network has done its work. It is now our task to take it to the next level. We thank you, we appreciate you, and we look forward to welcoming you to part 3 in this very impactful series. Thank you to everyone, and in particular, thank you for Director for running off the plane and making here for his very impactful contribution. Ladies and gentlemen, have a very warm rest of the day.
Bless indeed.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you. All the best.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Good one. Thank you.
All right.